The global system has been turned upside down. Canada must forge a new path by navigating the world as it is, not as we would like it to be. We are charting this course with confidence, pragmatism, and ambition. There are disruptive superpowers in the world, more than one, and that's the way the world is. That's the truth. That's reality. And Canada needs to have relationships with major powers, trade relationships, but relationships that are tailored to our interests and values.
In the gilded halls of Beijing's Great Hall of the People, a quiet geopolitical shift has taken shape. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney stood beside Chinese President Xi Jinping and, with a few carefully chosen words, signaled a reset that could redraw old lines of loyalty, trade, and power. Carney called it a new strategic partnership. Beijing calls it an opening.
Canada can thrive in a new system, but to do so, we must be ambitious. We must work at speed and scale to find new partners, to diversify our trade, and attract unprecedented levels of investment in our country. And we must be pragmatic. That means we have to understand the differences between Canada and other countries, and then focus our efforts to work together where we're aligned. And it's with this approach that Canada is forging a new strategic partnership with China. President Xi and I are announcing that Canada and China are forging a new strategic partnership. It will focus on 5 key areas where both our nations stand to make substantial and sustained gains. The first is in clean energy and climate competitiveness, areas where Canada and China have immense strengths and complementary strengths. Second, we're expanding trade, particularly in agriculture and food, where Canada is a reliable partner. Third, our commitment to multilateralism and strengthening global governance comes at a time when all of this is in flux. Fourth, we're deepening engagement in public safety and security to protect our peoples. And finally, people-to-people ties and culture are being enhanced to enrich our lives.
After years of frozen relations, arrests, retaliation, and mistrust, Canada and China are stepping back toward each other, not out of nostalgia, but necessity. This is the first visit by a Canadian Prime Minister since 2017, before relations collapsed over the arrest of a Huawei executive at Washington's request and the jailing of 2 Canadians in China soon after. But today, the world is different. The United States, once Canada's unshakable anchor, has become unpredictable. Sweeping tariffs, trade threats, and Donald Trump's repeated jaw-dropping suggestion that Canada could become the 51st U.S. state. Ottawa has heard this message over and over again. In Beijing, Carney spoke of repairing an international system, of historic gains in agriculture and energy, of cooperation in a world under pressure. Behind the diplomatic language lies a hard economic reality. Canada will ease restrictions on Chinese electric vehicles, allowing nearly 50,000 EVs into its market. In return, China is expected to slash crushing tariffs on Canadian canola, a crop worth $4 billion and vital to farmers who've watched their second-largest market vanish overnight. Lobsters, peas, agricultural lifelines are now reopening.
I'm very happy to be meeting you again. Last October, we met in Jiangsu, South Korea, and our discussions were very productive, truly opening a new and positive chapter for China-Canada relations.
This is your first visit to China since becoming Prime Minister. The healthy and stable development of China-Canada relations serves the common interests of our 2 countries and benefits world peace, stability, development, and prosperity. I am fully prepared to continue our collaborative efforts with you, upholding a profound and unwavering sense of responsibility towards history, our respective peoples, and the broader global community to propel China-Canada relations onto a trajectory of healthy, stable, and sustainable development, thereby bringing greater prosperity and mutual benefit to the people of both our nations.
Thank you, President Xi, for your hospitality, for the warm welcome that's been extended to this delegation, and for the opportunity that our partnership brings to both our peoples, and I would suggest as well to the world. Mr. President, together we can build on the best of what this relationship has been in the past to create a new one, adapted to new global realities that will deliver stability, security, and prosperity to our peoples on both sides of the Pacific.
For China, this moment is strategic. Beijing has long sought to weaken the unity of U.S. allies, to challenge a world order it believes is unfairly dominated by Washington and its partners. Xi calls for a new type of strategic partnership. The words are measured, the intent is not. And for Carney, the pivot is delicate, even risky. During the election, he named China as Canada's biggest security threat. Yet today, economics and geopolitics collide. This is not an alliance born of trust. It is a partnership forged by pressure. As Canada looks east, one thing is clear. The old certainties are gone, and a new global balancing act has just begun.
Shortly after the elections, I spoke with Premier Li. 2 months later, we met in New York. In October, I met with President Xi in South Korea. Through sustained, constructive, and pragmatic dialogue, particularly through visits by our ministers and caucus members to China, we are renewing this relationship so that it generates ambitious results for the people of both countries. China is the world leader in clean energy, producing over 75% of all electric vehicle batteries, over 80% of solar panels, and over 60% of the world's electricity. With a strengthened partnership in energy storage, as well as in energy production, we can cooperate to reduce emissions and stimulate massive new investments in clean energy technologies. In the coming weeks and months, we will launch a new ministerial dialogue to accelerate the implementation of our commitments regarding clean and conventional energy. Canada has an ambitious goal of increasing our exports to China by 50% by 2030. Supported by a new trade roadmap, we will also expand Canadian investment in China in areas such as services, energy, space art, agriculture, and cutting-edge manufacturing. We share several environmental objectives. Canada and China's leadership has allowed for the successful creation of a global framework for global economic biodiversity at COP15 in Montreal. That's why the third pillar of our strategic partnership has a renewed commitment to global governance. Furthermore, by collaborating, Canada and China can focus on the many areas of common interest, from climate competitiveness and finance to macroeconomic stability and multilateralism. The global system has been turned upside down. Canada must forge a new path by navigating the world as it is, not as we would like it to be. We are charting this course with confidence, pragmatism, and ambition. There are disruptive superpowers in the world, more than one, and that's the way the world is. That's the truth. That's reality. And Canada needs to have relationships with major powers, trade relationships, but relationships that are tailored to our interests and values. There are issues at stake for cooperation between Canada and China. There are challenges, but they are also clear. And therefore, yes, relations with China are more predictable now than other relationships for Canada. That's a lot of progress in agricultural products. We've made a lot of progress. We expect there to be more reduction in agricultural tariffs during the year. For a small part of the Canadian market, we expect a commitment to investment in Canada from the true leaders of the new industry. So this is an agreement that will create the future for our industry. Canada's position regarding Greenland is that the future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland, okay? First point. Second point, we are allies. We are allies in NATO, and Canada is firm and clear. We have obligations, commitments as a partner, as an ally in NATO regarding Greenland and Denmark, and we will honor our commitments, and we expect other NATO members to honor their commitments.